Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the first episode for our attempt at a podcast.
Do
I
our
am
best.
Dan from CSC Sharks, and she's over there. There she is. Yeah,
I'm
Shark,
Emily, Shark Lady
Shark
Emily.
Lady Emily's over there. Okay, so jumping right into things right off the jump, I think we're going to go
Let's
ahead
do
and
it.
tackle the hard hitting question first and get it out of the way.
Yep.
So
I
I
get it
don't
all the time.
I don't get this question that much, but I know Emily gets it all the time. So the megalodon, the ever polarizing
Dun,
apex
dun,
predator of its time.
dun.
Yes, the megalodon
Yep.
shark. Is it still alive? Is it still somewhere out there lurking in the deep, running from Jason Statham? That is the question.
I mean, I don't know why they would run from him, but yeah. Anyway.
So, yeah, so that you get this question all the time, and
All the time.
I guess the big thing is it's polarizing. People want it to be real. I mean, I wish T Rexes were still alive. I think that'd be pretty fucking cool. But
I agree.
the
But the
science,
megalodon, no,
yeah, the science does not support the megalodon being alive. So,
it's
um,
not sciencing.
it's not sciency. But anyway, so I would bring up, so from my point of view, even though I'm not so much in the fossil game, I'm not
Right.
really into that stuff. But my first thought from a research side would be um, the megalodon, from my understanding, and I could be wrong, is opportunistic, much like sharks nowadays, as far as it will hunt, but it would probably scavenge as well. If there was a dead whale floating on the water, I'm assuming it would probably scavenge as well. I'm not
Yep.
sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. So I would imagine there would be predation evidence that would pop up every now
Mhm.
and then, whether it be something washing up with giant bites taken out of it, or sharks often lose teeth in
Yeah.
predation. So it could be a tooth, a fresh meg tooth stuck in a whale vertebrae or something. You would think you would see that
Yeah,
kind of
which is
stuff. So
not. I've never found, this is my thing too, is that you have to, with the whole evolutionary path and like fossilization and all that. I'm still learning about it because that's not my expertise. But
yes.
when it comes to that, they were an apex predator for 12 million years, and that's a really long time. Never
Mm,
mind with the evidence of the shifting continents, the changing seas, the temperatures. That right there alone is going to change a ton of different apex predators, not just like fish or anything like that. It's going to change all sorts of environments, and so
mhm.
therefore it's just a natural thing that's going to happen. But a lot of people don't understand the evolutionary path and process of things, and they think that it should just naturally quickly adapt to a completely opposite environment than it already had thrived in for 12 million years. So
Yep.
it's just, to me, it just doesn't make sense to actually have that type of fish still be alive without,
Right.
like you just said,
Mhm.
evidence of it being alive. It
Yep.
was supposed to be a warm water coastal fish. And if that's true, even though the continents were different, it still had a migratory pattern, I guess.
Mhm.
But at the
Yep.
same time, it still stayed around in the warm waters. And so, therefore, we would have seen them because that's like pretty much where everybody goes in the water is in the warm
Yeah.
waters. So, I mean,
Right. Exactly.
I don't know. That's just what I
I
thought.
think.
Initial quickly one.
Yeah. 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 I think too. When it comes to people who say, "Oh, it's in the trenches," um,
Oh,
we in the wildlife world we see adaptations in many species that become subspecies or whatever, but we don't. It's never dramatic. Like you're not going to see a subspecies of
right.
polar bear in Africa or something. You know what I mean? It's that's too drastic of
It's
a
right,
change. It
right.
would be completely different. So I don't think the Meg would have been able to, within just a short period of time, be able to adapt to deep, dark, cold water in the trench. No light,
Nope.
no nothing.
And like you said,
So
it would, like you said that way, like you
yeah,
said, the whole fact is
mhm,
the whole fact is too, the predatory behavior would be different. It wouldn't, this is what they think it would have been, like a disabler slash ambush predator. So mainly it would
mhm,
just come up and take bites out of things like turtles or anything like that,
yep,
just to kind of disable them, then go back and
mhm,
get it. And if it had gone down to the trenches, it would completely be an opposite type of predatory behavior. Like we were saying, it would be more of a
yep,
scavenger. So the reason for all of these huge teeth that we find, there would be no reason for that if it
Yeah.
did adapt to that environment. From what we know of that
Mhm.
environment, which is very little, it's not what you see on the Meg movies. It's not
Yeah.
like it's a
Yeah.
whole
No.
new environment with all these magical
Yeah, because
creatures
isn't
and
that what they
bioluminescence.
don't they find like a what is it like a I never watched it because I whatever,
Oh, they're
but
actually kind of fun and entertaining. They're the
I don't
only
know.
other ones besides Jaws and Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah, Deep Blue Sea is great, but
Yeah, that is
so
true.
don't they actually find like a layer that they penetrate, and it's like a
Yeah, it's
tropical
like a
shit or something like that?
it's like a
I can't.
thermocline layer, so it's like a difference in temperature. So that they say
Mm.
that the water's warmer down there underneath the
Oh,
thermocline. I
so
think
that's how they.
is the whole initial. So that's why they say the Meg could be down there. So you never. That's why I
Mhm.
always say. I mean, we don't actually know for sure. So who knows? That could
Yeah,
be
that
true. But I really, I mean, the
I don't think so.
I don't
I
know. The
don't.
evidence doesn't really point to that at the moment. But I mean, like I
Would
said,
it
I've been wrong many times before.
would it be
I'm trying to
cool?
look for my
Yes.
megalodon trees. That's why I'm looking
You're
around.
fine. I don't
Oh,
think
sorry.
no, you're good. I don't think
There we go. I found.
people like the idea of extinct creatures being alive. It's a fun topic to talk about, but no different than
Mm-hmm.
like the sightings of like the thylacine, the Tasmanian tiger that went extinct in the 30s, and people have that's a whole different situation. That's an animal that
Right.
um makes sense that could still be out there, but something because it's a small marsupial dog slash tiger thing basically,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
shark
Right.
a shark of that size would not be unseen. Um,
No, and that's the thing. And every time I read to the new evidence, they're now saying that it might be even a 60-foot shark or even bigger than that. And that to me,
yeah,
I mean, I understand, and I don't want to believe in just like the initial what I was initially taught or thought about with the Meg, but it doesn't make a ton of sense for it to be a warm water coastal fish and be that large,
yeah,
and be so cylindrical, long pectoral fins. It just and like we were talking about before, it's supposed to be part of the mackerel shark family and supposed to be related to the great whites and makos and stuff. And that just doesn't make sense because it had different adaptations. It doesn't mean that
yeah,
other mackerel sharks don't have that, but when they talk
mm,
about mackerel sharks, you're talking about not just the order, but then it only consists of 5 species. Like I always show
yeah,
you guys, it's like my favorite with all the great whites. But the
yeah,
rest of the mackerel sharks are just in the order of mackerel sharks. The actual species are only the great white mako and porbeagle and salmon shark. So it
yeah,
doesn't make sense for them to be that way. It makes more sense that they're a requiem shark to me. And I wanted to tell you because when I was reading about the requiem sharks, a lot of
mhm.
them are warm water, migratory species. But it makes more
Oh
sense
yeah,
that the Meg would be shaped more like your blue shark or some, like
mm,
with like very flexible almost.
yeah,
But then have more of like a reef shark in black tip type of mentality. I don't know how
yeah.
to.
I've heard that before though,
Yeah.
because it's always portrayed as a giant great white, which is cool for
Right. In
entertainment reasons,
theory.
but I don't. If it was a disabler, like you said it was, I would
Yeah. See,
imagine
that's the
it'd have to be fast, which mackerel sharks are fast. So I mean, obviously the mako is fast, but like streamlined, I don't really think of a white shark or a. I mean, I don't know.
mm,
I could be wrong. I don't think
see,
of them
that's the
as
thing. It's like I
necessarily
don't know.
streamlined. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But then the mako shark is semi streamlined though, because that's a
Yes,
very
because it's fast.
thin
Yeah.
fish. And
Hmm.
it's super fast, obviously. But at the same time, though, when you think about the blue shark is very flexible and very,
Yeah.
like that. Like
Hmm.
that's how
Yeah.
I picture a blue shark is moving very quickly and in and out. Whereas,
Yeah.
like with the makos, I feel like they're just quick darts. Does
Quick.
that
Yeah.
make sense?
Absolutely.
Not so much bendy.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yes, bendy is the official science term.
Right.
Uh,
It's the official scientific term,
bendy.
shark
Yes.
buoy term.
Yes. Exactly. No. So I don't think. And here's my other
That's a
question. So
merch
about the
idea.
yeah, that is my
Hold
next
on.
idea. So, write it down. Write it down.
I'm writing it down.
Write it down. Absolutely.
Oh gosh.
I don't. I'm
Okay, so
fascinated by. So was the Meg alive? I don't. So I don't know a whole lot about the Meg. So this is going to be me asking questions probably a lot. But so the Meg
I love
was
it.
alive. Do you know the era that it was alive in, as far as the prehistoric? What prehistoric era? What would have
Yes.
been its
Yes.
competition? Would it had mosasaur
Yes.
competition? Would it have had? Okay.
No. So the Meg was alive 15 million years ago. So when you're looking
Okay.
at that, you're going to have to get into, because you are, I think it's more of the Paleocene. You know how I'm really
Yeah.
bad with pronouncing that shit.
That's pretty good. I'm pretty
So
sure that's
it's
right.
in,
Yeah.
yeah, the Meso. Okay, so the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous period, we're in like the
Hmm.
epoch, and
Hmm.
then we are in the Cenozoic, the next epoch. So
Yeah.
the Megalodon didn't come until after the dinosaurs were completely gone, and all
Okay.
of that.
So,
And I don't. But when is
gotcha.
the Mosasaurus and all them?
That's what I don't know. Yeah.
Was that? I don't
I
know, because
feel
I know
like
that
they
that wasn't
were.
actually a dinosaur, right? Wasn't it a reptile or whatever?
It's a
The
reptile. It's an ocean.
Mosasaurus.
Yeah, it was an ocean reptile. That
Yeah,
swam in
because
the
I
ocean.
didn't think
So,
it was actually because like the
yep.
first, I'm still reading about all of it too. So, but when you're talking about the megalodon though, because they say that because there's obviously mega two species, because the megalodon's the largest of them, and as you know. But
Hmm.
now I'm kind of interested in the fact that there's got to be many more than just the four that I always talk about, with the
Yeah.
Otodus, the Angie, the Chub, and the Meg. There's got to be a lot more of an adaptation, evolutionary like path of the different species, but I just don't know. There's not enough evidence that gives you like names and species. But I know that
Yeah.
Dr. Hubble, do you know who that guy is? Dr.
Is he a
Hubble?
paleontologist or?
He No, so he's just like an average like whatever Joe, but he was the one that did the he's been like a fossil hunter for decades, and he's a really
Hmm.
old gentleman, and he Jeff from Sharko, he went to his place. He was
Hmm.
able to tour his like museum, and he's got like thousands of meg teeth. He puts together all the jaws of all these different species and prehistoric stuff, and he's got all these different fossils of sharks,
Yeah.
just so cool. And he was the one that was kind of, he had different um species of megatooth sharks, and I wasn't
Yeah.
able to catch the actual names through the video and
Yeah.
stuff, so
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
wondering how many that he actually has. It's a very private collection though, he doesn't let people let go. So I'm
That's
very
kind of cool though.
interested now in, yeah, it kind of like opened my mind to the thought that there's many different species probably of megatooth sharks, just obviously the megalodon being the largest.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, with land dinosaurs, there's bones that we dig up, but with with the sharks, we only have teeth, right?
Yep. And the teeth are a good indication. Like they always say that the teeth have pretty much every inch of tooth is going to equate to about 10 feet or so of the shark. So when you're
Yeah.
looking at really large megalodon teeth being like 6 inches, that's why they're saying that they may be up to 60 feet or more. And so
Yeah.
the ones like, that I obviously dig and dive for fossils. So I have my own megalodon teeth that I found, but they're not as large as the ones that I purchased throughout my time. And so I have really large ones, obviously. So this one right here, this is my largest one so far.
That's the
And
Indonesian.
this one was found in Indonesia, but
Yeah.
I didn't find this one, obviously. And my measuring doesn't go as far,
Yeah.
as big. So I
Hmm.
think that this one is going to be, give or take. So you're at 2. So this one's just over 5, I think, give or take, five
Yeah.
inches. And so, or 5, yeah, maybe even bigger than that. I'm
Yeah.
not sure, but it's as big as my face.
Right.
But with
Right.
that saying, though, that's a really large tooth. And with the other species of sharks that they think that they found of the megatooth species, they're a lot smaller than this. So,
So you
I
think
mean,
that that shark right there was probably how long would you say, like,
so I
estimated
guess
by
I
it?
really would rather give, I don't have my a tape measure. Do I just give, I think I have
Yeah,
one
you're
right
good.
here.
No, you're good.
I wanted to see, I don't know if I have how big this one is
Hmm.
actually. I don't have like a ruler, and my measuring thing little tool doesn't do the big, obviously, it doesn't do the big teeth.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I got you.
So this
Well,
one,
just a
yeah, so
guesstimate
this one,
on that.
all right, hold on. So
Okay.
that right there is going to be, that's 4.35, and that's right to that mark. Okay, 4.35. And then you go, give or take, 1.5, 4.35 and 1.5 is what? 4 point and 1.5, 5.8. Is
Around
that
there,
kind
yeah.
of what it is?
Yeah.
So this is like, so let's just say that this is a 5.6. So you're looking at like a
Sure.
55-foot shark.
Yeah.
that this
Okay.
came out of, give or
So I
take.
guess,
I mean,
yeah,
that's a
that's
really large shark.
crazy to think about that you're holding something that was potentially in a 50-foot
I know.
mega predator,
Yeah,
so
apex
it's crazy
predator,
to think about.
keystone species.
And
It
that was
blows my mind. Okay, so
fossilized. Go ahead.
yeah, and remember what we were talking about the tooth placement in sharks.
Yes.
Um, and I'll admit it that I didn't realize that sometimes, not in every species, but in a lot of species, that what we think is the front is actually the back of the tooth, and that's very
Mhm.
frustrating for me, being so obsessed. So
It
this
just
is
doesn't make
technically
sense,
we
like, to me,
it.
with the way the
I
shape
know,
is,
I
it
know.
doesn't. Yeah, it's very strange.
I agree, but when you see it in, okay, so it's, I know it's the way in white sharks they have it, and also I think it's I got close-ups of tiger sharks and great hammerheads, and I'm going to look at their teeth and how they're placed, if they're backwards,
Yep.
what we think is backwards, or if it's actually front. But from what I understand, the way that these are going to be placed in the actual gums is going to
Mm.
make more sense of it being curved. I don't know how. That's just what I was
Okay,
told really
so
quickly. So
just to give a little backstory, Emily and I were at the South Carolina Aquarium. It was, I think she was down to tag sharks with me, but I think it was rainy and nasty that day. So we ended up at the
mhm.
South Carolina Aquarium, which I used to work at. I worked at for 3 years when I was first starting out. And they have a very large Meg jaw in one of the exhibits. And we were cracking up because the teeth looked like they were put in backwards. Well, apparently,
Meaning,
ju-
yeah, this is the front,
so
and this would be the
the
back.
yeah, so the
The
curved
teeth were
part
facing
being
out this way.
in, which you would think common sense and whatever, it would make sense that to be the, so we thought they were in backwards, so we were having a giggle. And then, granted, my experience isn't so much prehistoric sharks, but still common sense was like, oh, that's not right.
Yeah.
I think so there's been some things that maybe we were wrong about that, but anyway, so
We are
it's
very
proof.
much okay with admitting we're wrong, but at the
Yes,
same
I'm
time, it's just
totally
like
cool with that.
disturbing and it
I'm
makes me angry.
We are not perfect, I get that, but it
No,
was still kind of like
surprising.
yeah, it's like two shark experts at a aquarium having a giggle about something that we thought was done incorrectly, and the joke probably ended up
It's on
on
us.
us. So anyway, so
So
that's
we're
that's
gonna
the
move on
backstory
from
there.
that.
Yeah, that's gonna be a shirt somehow. I'll turn that into a shirt.
Oh my god, we have to turn that
I
into a
will.
shirt.
Yeah, just like a
That's a
picture of
funny one.
like a cartoon picture of a Meg jaw and two idiots standing in front of it with question marks above their head. I
Yeah,
think that
if
would
you
be
look.
making fun of these lovely volunteers at this aquarium that probably had no
I
idea what they were
know.
laughing at. So
Oh, we're such
anyway,
assholes.
yeah, who
Don't
cares?
ever put us in a room together.
No, or an aquarium. Yeah.
That's
Anyway,
what I mean. Like, that's what I
yeah,
kind of meant, but
an aquarium, but
it didn't come out
um,
correctly.
yeah. So so Emily's live streams on TikTok have been, there's at least when I'm in there, sometimes I can't stick around, but I would probably say at least an average of, what would you say, 5 to 10 people that ask about the megalodon, or do you think it's greater than, less than?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
probably.
I think it's at least, yeah. It depends on how, at least like two per 30 minutes, at
Yeah,
least.
yeah.
Whenever
So
I'm
it's
on, there's always talk about the Meg. And then usually when I tell them about the Meg, they don't believe me, which is okay. But at the same time, it's like, then why ask?
so that's the thing. And you come into a marine biologist's live stream and argue with them, and then, like, there's, I'm not going to mention names of anybody in the stream, but there's people that have come in and they're like, "Oh, but I research sharks," and then it's like, "Okay, well, what's your background? Like, how did you get your start?" And it's like, "Oh, no, this is just my own research," which means Google or Nat Geo
Yeah, it was
or
right.
Shark Week,
Exactly.
and
Shark
so it's
Week.
frustrating.
Shark
Yeah,
Week.
Shark Week. So it's like, it is frustrating. I had that a lot, even in my lives when I still could go live on TikTok, where during
Oh,
actual, like, fishing sessions on the beach, when we were pulling in a 7-foot lemon shark, and somebody's in the live going, "Oh, it's a bull shark," and I just don't have
you're like,
energy to
no.
argue with people. Stuff. It's like,
Especially
but
when it's so
whatever.
obvious.
Yeah,
Me
yeah.
too.
But anyway, so I guess my consensus would be, obviously it's not still out there. I think it would be cool if it was still out there, but I mean, with the technology we have and the submersibles and submarines, not to mention the amount of people that are out on the water every day in America for sport fishing, whatever it may be, diving. All the recreations
Cruises.
that are involved. Yes.
I mean, think about the amount of cruises that cross the quote unquote territory of what the Meg would have been in, which would be warm
Hmm.
water. Like
Yeah.
even like even in the Caribbean, even down like in I mean all of it, all around the equator, there should be some sort of megalodon and some sort of warm water. And even if they
Yeah.
adapted to the trenches, then like I just don't think that would happen. There
So
would be no need for
I
that
just want
type
to
of
take the
fish down there.
I just want to take the trenches completely out because it's not. I don't think it's an option.
Yeah, I
So
agree
even if
with you
the
because
trenches, the
that's
deep
usually what the
water,
arguments of everybody is.
yeah, because it's a convenient argument
No.
because they can say, oh, the reason why we don't see it that much is because it's down in the trench, and that's just a cop out argument. But I
Yeah,
would
and that you
say
don't really know it's in the trenches, so you can't die.
exactly, it's a great way to be like, oh, it's a way to try to win an argument without winning the argument. You know what I mean? Without actually putting facts together. It's just, oh, it's in the trenches. That's why we can't see it. Well, okay, so get the trenches out of your head. Let's get the deep, dark abyss out of your
Yep.
head. It's not there. I know everybody's like, but what?
Seriously.
How do you know that? You can't be certain. Only so much of the ocean's been discovered. Blah blah blah. It's not there.
And
So
that's true,
you can
but
tell me. You can tell me I'm wrong. It's still my opinion, but I feel like it's a strongly factually backed opinion. But um,
well, it's an
if so, let's just
educated
say
opinion because we have a lot that we
yes,
think
exactly.
about because we are dealing with living animals,
Hmm.
the living species of sharks. And so
Yes.
when we combined our knowledge of fossils and our fossilization of teeth and all that,
Yeah.
then
Hmm.
that kind of helps us guide our way to what we kind of like know as fact. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, like you said, we don't really know. And honestly, every fossil you find is only a very small fraction of what actually lived. So not
Right.
everything fossilizes, not everything gets the chance to
Yeah.
fossilize. So when we get these teeth, not that's only coming from a very small fraction of these sharks. So
Right.
I mean, there could be species that we have zero knowledge about, or we could be completely wrong about this. This could probably come from
Absolutely.
like a smaller shark. I mean, we don't really know, but what
We
we
don't
base
know
everything off of the living species, we have to figure that out. We have to
exactly.
go off of that. So
And I think that's the
it's
main
like you
reason why the
guys, it's
Meg,
like,
yeah, that's the main reason why the megalodon is, I think, so often depicted as a giant great white because its teeth are similar to a great white. So we take that
mhm.
because all we have is the teeth. It's kind of like even with real life dinosaurs. I mean, I
with
know
the
we have bones.
exception
Hmm.
with the exception of burlap bands, because you know that the megalodon is the reason why they have the megatooth species is because of the burlap band, and the white
Yeah.
sharks and the mackerel sharks don't have that. The
Okay.
makos, the great whites, the lesser whites, the things that came even before the great white and mako split off, they don't have any of the burlap band, and that's one reason why I don't think that doesn't mean other that it couldn't have been a mackerel shark, but I don't think that it was related to the great white or anything like that because they would have had some sort of transition with a burlap band or something.
So
But
don't
I just don't see that happening.
don't species of requiem sharks have burlap bands in them?
So I don't really know. This is the thing that
I
I
feel
don't
like it
know of any
does
other
because
species.
I feel like I've
So I
seen.
have the book right in front of me, and it shows me some of the species. Now now we're talking about like duskies, silkies,
Mhm.
sandbars. We're also talking about
Yes,
silver tips, reef shark, blue sharks. I know I'm just kind of
my
giving
personal
people
favorite
tiger
family of
sharks.
sharks.
Right, that is yours.
I
Yeah,
love
bull
my
sharks,
requiems.
oceanic white tips.
Yep.
That's the type of sharks that encompass the requiem, and even some
Yep.
sharks that people haven't even heard about, like the whaler shark and um,
That's an
the
Australian
Borneo,
species.
the gray sharp nose, all sorts of different
Hmm.
ones.
There's so
Oh
many
yeah, your
shark
favorite
species.
sharp nose.
Yeah. Oh my god, don't get me started. So
I mean, yeah,
my
I
favorite
know.
to
Sorry,
use.
sorry. That's
That's
another like
something
little
that's so
inside thing we
crazy.
have. Um,
Yeah. It's so crazy to me that because like obviously my expertise is sharks in in the Atlantic in my area. Not to say I haven't researched.
yep.
Like, I love oceanic white tips. They're one of my favorites, like pelagic sharks. Um, that's just because they're so unique looking and they're, I don't want to use the word
Mm.
aggressive, but you know what I mean. They're they're up there.
Very
But
curious.
curious, yeah.
Extremely curious.
But I find it fascinating the amount of sharks in the world, and I think people don't understand. Like, we joke around from a shark fishing and tagging side of things. We laugh because that's one of the most common things I get is, and it's the joke around us is that everything is a bull shark, no matter what. So for most novice people who don't know how to identify sharks, which there's nothing. I mean, IDing sharks is hard, but especially when it gets
It's
down
even hard for
to
you and I sometimes. We're like,
differences.
I don't really know what that is.
There are very subtle differences, especially when they're young. So,
Mhm.
and that's one of the things with that I find so fascinating is that there's so many species out there that I don't know that much about because they're not. I don't work with them every day. And that like the bronze whalers
Right.
and the Caribbean reefs and like I don't work
Mhm.
with them, even though I think the Caribbean reef shark is technically in my range up here in South Carolina. I think range extends
Yeah, I'm not sure what their
up
pattern
here,
is.
but I've never seen them. But they could be off on our wrecks offshore, so I wouldn't know. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
so
true.
I think and that's so back to the Meg real quick. So the fact that could it be its own family? Like, could it be? Because I know it's like, oh, mackerel sharks, but then you say the mackerel sharks don't have the burlap band that the megatooth sharks. So is it a possibility that
No,
the megatooth
I mean,
sharks were their own family, that the whole family went extinct?
whoops. So
You're
I
good.
think so. I mean, that's a definite possibility, or it's just being mislabeled, or the information that I'm getting is, outdated. Because honestly, the teeth don't make sense to me being
Mhm.
part of the mackerel shark family if that is so closely related to the great white. So if the
Yeah.
Meg is really related to the great white, then it would have to have taken a severe turn in adaptations and evolutionary path. But they were also
Mhm.
alive at the same time. So like
Yeah.
the whole like when the megalodon was going down in existence, you had the great white coming up in existence. And so, in one of the
Mhm.
species, because
Yeah.
there's been a few different species of great whites. And so, you have to think about the fact is I just don't find that they're related. They have two different types of adaptations. They're two different body structures, apparently, like all sorts of different types of things that lead to them not being in the same family. But I
Mhm.
could be wrong
But,
because
yeah.
everything says that they're in the mackerel shark family. So it's like it just
I guess
confuses me.
that's
I know
where
that I
like
called you the other day being like, I'm so confused.
yeah, no, and that's what I find. That's what's so great about this field in particular, and not just prehistoric, but in marine science and not just sharks, but in general with the ocean. Um, there's so much to learn. It doesn't matter how much school you do, how much experience you have. You learn new shit
Nope.
all the time, which is what makes it so exciting. And like me, like I'm not into the fossil
Exactly.
side of things, but I like to learn about prehistoric sharks. I mean, I was a kid. It was sharks and dinosaurs, so I was always into
Right.
fossils, but I never put them together as sharks and fossils. But so I guess my question is, so the megatooth sharks could look like anything. We don't know,
We
right?
don't know. And well, that's the thing is that they put them in more of like a white shark body,
I know.
like a
Yeah.
mackerel shark body type. And but then recently though, I heard that they thought the Meg had really long pectoral fins and more resembled the body structure and shape of a blue shark. And so
Yeah.
to me, obviously the blue shark is a requiem shark, and it just made more sense if it's going to be that type. And
Yeah.
if it had those types of teeth and it was that quick and had like little bursts of speed, but it was a disabler, like that would make sense. That would have to
That
come
would
in
make more
quickly
sense.
and be flexible enough to kind
Yeah.
of jet out. If it was a great white body structure, to me it would be more of a straight on like
Yeah.
taking down type of thing, and not so much like coming out and back and
And
coming.
the
I
yeah the
know the
white
great
shark
white
is
shark does do that though, but
yeah, and the white shark is also thick and bulky and has a lot of muscle in its tail that gives it that propulsion to be able to launch up on
yeah.
seals in like South Africa and stuff. So, um, how fucking crazy would a 50-foot blue shark look? Holy crap! Could you imagine?
See, that's what I'm saying. See, I could picture that more than I could picture a 50-foot or 60-foot great white. To me, like,
Really?
or even a mako, because they still have a lot of girth to them. Whereas the
Yeah.
blue
Right.
shark is so thin and
Hmm.
so bendy, so it would be able to navigate that type of environment, in my opinion, like where it could go into shallows, but it
Hmm.
also can go and navigate into like the deep waters as well and be a migratory fish, because it would have
Right.
long pectoral fins, so it'd be able to go in the different water columns and be able to go ahead and have its different bursts of speed. So it could still be a mackerel, but I just don't find it to be. It really confuses me, and I don't ever want to put out like the wrong information, but at the same
No, of
time, like
course.
that's just I like
This
this
is
type of
what
thing where I think it might be more of a requiem, but that's my
discussion
opinion,
and
obviously.
yes, theories and discussion are a good thing. And I think if
Yeah.
we can have a discussion all day long about prehistoric sharks, but just the is it still alive thing, that just we put that to bed. It's
Is it
in
still
my
alive?
opinion.
Absolutely no, no,
Yeah.
and no. And I'm gonna have to say, in my opinion, in my scientific opinion, as a shark
Yes.
biologist, as a diver, as
Yeah.
a fish lover, as a shark lover, no, the megalodon is not out there.
And it's not
No,
just you. Like I have,
it's not.
friends that work in the shark field, and from PhDs to fishermen and divers that I know that I've known for years, and they all it's
Exactly.
and that's the funny thing, and I always try to tell people in the live streams, it's like, look, I understand you want it to be alive, but I'm not telling you 100% without a shadow of a doubt it's not alive. I'm just telling you, in my opinion,
Correct.
it's definitely not alive. And if you talk to anybody with any kind of credibility in the field, it's not alive. They don't even entertain that. One of my good buddies who's a marine
No.
scientist, he won't even talk about it. He's like, it's just stupid. There's no reason for me to waste my time with this. It's like Bigfoot. It's like a mammal expert or wildlife biologist chasing Bigfoot. It's just yeah. Look, there's no reason. So,
It's just,
yeah.
you're
But
right.
anyway,
It's just chase the
it's just
teeth. Just go find the teeth. That's all you got to do is just go find the
yeah,
teeth,
and
and then
go find the
that should be
teeth.
enough. The
That should be
fact that it
enough.
lived,
Yeah,
the fact that it
be
lived,
happy that it lived.
is the
It
best
was
part.
on our planet at one point, which
Hmm.
is freaking cool to think about. Um,
And the fact that we can
but
find these teeth and that they're just so
yes,
badass. I mean, they are honestly, they found megalodon teeth in whale vertebrae, like in the actual vertebrae. The vertebrae split but still
yeah,
whole, and the meg tooth is actually in the
which is
vertebrae.
awesome.
And like that is fucking badass. Like, can
So
you
do we
imagine finding
know?
that? I'd be like,
I know I'd lose my mind. So do we know for a fact that the megalodon? I guess it's my question as somebody who works with more alive sharks. Uh, a question, it's speculation. I don't know. How do they determine the shark's hunting style if all we have are teeth? I mean, because my
okay, so
question is,
based on the teeth,
mhm, mhm.
go ahead. Sorry, I know I keep
No,
interrupting
no, no,
you. I
go ahead.
don't mean
No,
to.
it's fine. It's because there's a little delay. It's fine.
No,
Go
I
ahead,
was
bud.
just gonna say, based on the teeth, you can figure out their predatory style and based off the living sharks. So when you
Mm,
look at their teeth, they're going to have very large teeth with a good root system. But when you look at the different teeth in the placement area of their jaw, you're going to get different sizes. And with that saying, though, that determines on whether what their predatory style would be, their behavior, and also what they're eating. If they have, like with a tiger sharks obviously have, when I talk about root systems, obviously I'm just talking about mainly their gums. Sharks have cartilage, obviously, for their jaw. And so they don't have the same root system or structure of their teeth as mammals do. So they lose their teeth
mm,
constantly. So when I talk
yeah,
about root systems, I'm kind of just meaning gums. I just want to clarify that
yeah,
for everybody. So
of
when you're
course.
looking at the megalodon or when you're looking at tiger sharks and their root system, it's a very wide root system to the tooth, and the tooth is very short in structure, and it has a different, it's all serrated. So you kind of know that this shark is going to be able to have a very strong bite force because it
Mhm,
needs, the tooth is not going to break, and it's not going to be a tall tooth with a lot of breakage, because then obviously it
yeah,
wouldn't be such a hard bite force because they would break all the time. So that's
yeah,
not a purpose, that wouldn't work. And
yeah,
so they've evolved to have short ones, so that's why they're able to go through like turtle shell and everything, because they've been able
yeah,
to, in the way that they move their head side to side with those serrations, it all just keeps, it just tears open the turtle shell
yeah,
with that bite force and the serration. So that's kind of how you base off of. And then you also have other types of sharks that have different types and shaped teeth. So you look at
yeah.
their behaviors or their predatory behavior, and then you base it off of what we find for prehistoric sharks. So when you're looking at the
Makes sense.
megalodon, you have a lot of a very triangular but very tall tooth, but you also have all serrated on the outsides with
Mhm,
this burlap band, which is an extra strong enameloid. It's called, or dentine or whatever, enameloid, and it helps anchor this tooth more to this gum or root system. So when
mhm,
you're looking at these, and they don't have a very wide root system, so you're not going to look at a really strong bite force, but probably a very quick one that's going to kind of need to go in very quickly and shred, because it's all heavily serrated and it's very pointed. So you're going to do
mhm.
that and it's going to shred. So that's kind of where they put it as a disabler or a kind of an ambush predator, because it still has serrations and stuff. But that's
Yeah,
kind of how
and
they
much
base off. It's just
yeah,
obviously with the living shark.
and much like live sharks.
You know me, I ramble. So
No, no, no. That's what we want. So I think too,
mhm.
much like live sharks, because my favorite. It's no. I just made a video about this. It's no. I know it's not a very sexy species, if one might call it sexy, but um, the my favorite
Well,
shark,
sharks are,
Carcarinus.
but
Yes, my favorite shark, Carcarinus lombatus, the blacktip shark. Always been my favorite shark. And we look at, and I feel like this is probably the way it is with prehistoric sharks. I would think, since we we look at live sharks to determine things that, to learn about prehistoric sharks. But blacktip sharks will sight hunt, so they can burst up to
Yep.
40 miles per hour and go into a school of mullet, whiting, menhaden, and pick off live shark or
Wow.
live fish. They're very intelligent.
I
They're
didn't
very
know that they can go that fast.
They can burst up to 30. I think it's
Wow.
35. I know that they've 30 between 35 and 40 miles per hour. They're a requiem shark. They have a lot of
So
power.
just so everybody knows, this is the shark
Mhm.
he's talking about. I know that it's just a drawing, and you probably can't see it because of the glare, but this is
Yep.
the black tip that he's
Yes.
talking about. And
So
you can
that
go to
is
his
not
channel to go see all of
yes.
his
So
videos.
that's Carcharinus limbatus. There is a blacktip reef shark, which is still in the requiem. It's Carcharinus, but it's not
Mhm.
limbatus. It starts with an M, I believe. I can't remember what the scientific name for the blacktip reef shark is, but so blacktip sharks.
That one is
This
it's a
I think it's an M, right? Yeah, M.
Melanopetrus or whatever.
Yeah,
The
I knew
black tip reef is different. I think it's smaller. Oh
it's a
shit.
lot
Sorry,
smaller. Yeah,
I'm totally off with the camera.
you're fine.
So the black
So
tip
it's
reef
definitely
is
a
that
smaller
one. It's
species. Yeah,
smaller.
I knew it was
Yep.
I knew it was
And it's
genus
got
M.
more
I just couldn't remember. Yeah,
it's more
no,
defined with the black on the tips as well.
definitely, 100%.
Just clarifying. Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead. I
So
didn't mean to
anyway,
interrupt.
blacktip sharks that I work with here can reach up to 6 foot, 150 pounds. Big sharks. Obviously, they're not crazy like great whites and tigers, but they're the shark most responsible for biting people here in South Carolina. But so the reason I was talking about blacktip sharks is because blacktip sharks will, like I said, they'll hunt their prey, they'll burst and to catch a fish, but they'll also take sick, dying, and injured fish and scraps. They're opportunistic. In South Carolina, one of the cool things that blacktips have learned how to do in South Carolina is when our shrimp boats come through. Um, it's kind of funny. You'll see me talk about it in some of my videos. When we have a shrimp boat off the beach, we almost never catch blacktip because the sharks are so smart. They will go and follow the shrimp boats because these shrimp boats throw off bycatch. So the sharks, they have learned this behavior of when these shrimp trawlers come through that they get an easy meal. So the reason I bring this up is because blacktips have multiple different styles of predation. So I would imagine you couldn't say the Meg was just a disabler. I feel like the Meg, much like every other living shark in the world, would probably take a dead whale, would probably take,
Oh yeah.
whatever it can. So opportunistic. So it would be really cool to know what the Meg's hunting style was, as far as like we know it could disable, it was ambush. Um, but would it go into a school of fish and smack its tail and disable a bunch of you don't know. It's kind of like a thresher behavior. We don't know.
Yep.
So I think that was cool. That was cool. But that was
Yep.
my point was, and I can go through the list of every shark here. Tiger sharks have different behaviors, but they use multiple. It's like having a what's the word I'm looking for? It's like okay, this is gonna sound really stupid, but it's like golf. I have 14 clubs in my bag. Each club can do something different. So a shark
Yep.
has all these different ways to do it, and not to bring up dolphins because we know how you feel about marine mammals, but in South Carolina, we have a really cool behavior with our Atlantic bottlenose dolphin where it's called strand feeding, and it's only done here. It's not done anyplace else in the world. So it's cool to see marine life that learns behavior and adjusts its hunting for what's around it. So I feel like the
Yep.
Meg, and I know somebody's going to say, "Oh, well, that just means it would adapt its hunting behavior in the trench," because I'm probably putting my foot in my mouth. But no, it would not. That's the complete. You know what I'm trying to
No.
say. So I was
No,
so the Meg.
because the hunting behavior
Mhm.
is only one aspect of it. There's so many
Yeah,
other aspects to that it would have
yeah,
to
of
comply
course,
with. So no, you're
of
very
course.
much on point.
Yeah. Well, I saw a video. I don't remember what Shark Week it was. Shark Week's gotten rough. Shark Week used to be
Oh,
a lot more informational.
getting
Now it's
really
more
that
just
as you just heard me.
attacks.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So I saw a ridiculous video on Shark Week. This is probably years and years ago, and it was of a megalodon breaching on a sperm whale and just like taking this giant sperm whale out of the water. Like it was this crazy ass. Like it looked like a scaled up version of like Mossel Bay or whatever with these black great whites that are taking seals. And it's like, I mean, sure, maybe, but wouldn't it make more sense to just disable? I don't know, whatever. I I thought it was interesting. So,
So
um,
they think though that if that was going to happen, if the megalodon was going to have some sort of encounter with a whale, it would
mhm,
have taken out a pectoral fin. It would have taken out certain things to disable that type of
Mhm.
of animal because it didn't have the environment to give it the
The
ability to
depth of
have breaches because
yeah,
yeah, the depth, and because not everywhere you don't get the same type of breaches from the great whites all over in every
yeah,
territory. When you have it
right.
down in Muscle, whatever in South
Also
Africa,
there.
there's such
Mhm,
a deep drop off that the sharks have the ability to get that
mhm,
burst of speed straight up to get those breaches. They breach full. Now, when you go to California, off the coast of California in the Pacific, they don't have that same type of drop off, so they get more of like a 45-degree angle breach most of the time.
mhm,
Doesn't mean it doesn't happen full breaches. But what I'm saying is the majority. It just depends on the actual sea floor. So, meaning that if it was a warm water coastal fish, meaning it didn't have a lot of those drop offs, I don't
yeah,
see
depth,
how it
yeah,
would be able to have that really short, quick burst of speed of an ambush. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen. It wasn't part of its predatory style when it could. But I think that it was mainly just a quick taking out and coming back. That's why I think it was very flexible, and that's why I think it had more of a cylindrical type of body than more of a
yeah.
girth type of body. And I
I
hate
agree
saying
with you.
that word, but you know what I mean with the
I
great
agree
white being so
100%, yeah.
heavy. Even the mako's a heavy shark.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because even like the white sharks in the Atlantic, because each subsect of great whites, like our white sharks here don't breach, from what I understand.
No, they don't
I've
breach,
I
and they
don't
all have
never
different
seen them
colors for
breach.
counter shading too.
Mhm. Because there's people around here. If you ask any of the experts, like my buddy who I'm hoping is going to be on the show here soon, who catches and tags a lot of great whites for the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, his opinion,
Yep.
from what I remember correctly, is that while they're here, the opportunity, if the opportunity presents itself, they are taking bottlenose dolphins because we don't have marine mammals like seals and sea
Interesting.
lions down here, um,
Down
for them to eat on like the
there, down
yeah.
with you guys, right?
Yeah, so the
Okay.
like even the harbor seal, I think it's Virginia, I
I mean, that
think.
would
I'm
make
not
sense.
sure, but we have like every now and then it'll be on the news where a harbor seal's on Folly Beach or something that just like got lost, but we don't have seals and sea lions down here, but we do have a very
Right.
large population of bottlenose dolphins. So um
Well, that would
that's
make sense because that's probably the largest marine mammal that they can get to, besides obviously getting up to a seal or sea lion. But I think what you're doing
or
too is, aren't
whales
you guys
offshore, yeah.
more encountering, right? But are you
Mm.
encountering more subadults than large adults? Do you know what I'm saying? Are you encountering white sharks that are like under 10 feet? Or do
So
you
that
think that you're encountering white
from
sharks that
my
are above that?
understanding, yeah, so from what I've seen just from my friend, and he'll be able to answer this more when he comes on the show, but I have noticed like if you
Sure.
follow his Instagram, and we'll keep his name secret until he comes on the show. But on
Yeah, until
Instagram,
then.
he's caught subadults. He's also caught 16-footers. Just I don't think it's a
He has.
specifically,
Okay. So
yeah.
I'm wondering, and I actually want to. I mean, I'll stop asking the questions, but I'm curious just because with the level of blubber nutrient rich type of mammals, marine mammals, I'm wondering if, because obviously there's different tiers to your white shark
Hmm.
growth, you know what I mean, for
Yeah.
menu items. When they're
Hmm.
juveniles, they require certain whatever, all the way up to adults that obviously require the most nutrient rich
Yeah,
fatty ones.
yeah,
So I'm
we
just
don't know.
curious. So
There's
anyways, yeah, we'll mark those and we'll mark that question.
Yeah, we'll mark those questions down for him. But and that's kind of the cool thing about the white sharks off the Carolinas is there's not that much. The research is, I feel like it's pretty limited down here. I feel like my
Yes.
buddy is the one
Yes.
doing a lot of the tagging work, but like most of it's up northeast, obviously, where the white sharks are eating seals. But the question is, during our winter, when they move down south, because our water's mid 50s, it's perfect for white sharks.
And
So
that's
during the
good.
winter,
Yeah, I was gonna say
they're
that's
here.
nice.
But the question, another question I want to note down for you, for he who shall not be named at this moment, is are they getting fat on seals up there and coming down here and maybe a mating behavior,
Mating
or just they're
or
so
even
fat from
giving
all the
birth.
seals they ate up there that they're not even eating anything down here. I don't know. Could there be white
Yeah,
sharks pupping here, eating our bonita or mackerel, or you know what I mean? You never know. So anyway,
because
we're
that's
off
what they
track
will
there.
eat, obviously.
They will,
No,
yeah,
no, no,
absolutely.
but these But honestly, though, this is good because then people can understand that the white shark too, and kind of
Hmm.
do the comparison between what we think about what the meg is versus what the actual living species of white shark is.
Yeah,
Now, that
yeah,
doesn't mean that the prehistoric white sharks didn't have different behavior than the living species of white sharks, but
right.
generally, you have kind of a pathway when you get to. And I'm not saying this because I know you know this, but the generally, obviously, with the adaptations and the evolutionary pathway, obviously you have a pathway of kind of like patterns, so you wouldn't have
Mhm.
such a drastic change if it was. So that's why
Right,
with the white shark we can kind of generalize that what the
right. Yeah,
prehistoric is
exactly.
versus the living, like we've been saying. So
Yep.
I think that it's a kind of a cool theory to be able to look at what people think always that the white shark is, and then what they think the megalodon is, and it's not like the
It's
white
not.
shark
Yeah.
from what we understand. So I have a really strong, I think my opinion is kind of strong that I disagree with the whole mackerel shark idea
I
with the
tend,
meg.
yeah, and I will stand on this. We'll die on this hill together. I am with you
I
100%.
appreciate that, and I have no
Yes.
problem though if people have evidence or anything, or if some of
Yeah.
theories change,
Or
I
if
will
anybody that
completely
is an
listen
expert on
to that.
Megs
But
and or a paleontologist who studies marine
yes,
fossils, you want to email us and come on the show, and heck yeah, we'll do that. So, and I'll put that in
one
the show.
thousand percent, please.
Yes, I'll put that in the description of the video. It's factsnotfearpod@gmail.com, but I'll put that in the link below. But um, so I agree with you. I think it's not a white shark. I think it's definitely more closely related to our modern day requiem sharks. I think it was
I
slender,
do too.
long pec
Mm-hmm.
fins, a good strong
Mm-hmm.
tail fin, and it was agile. And I think it would have to be
Yeah.
agile to keep up with the cetaceans that it was either disabling or hunting. So,
And they think that they were eating, I mean, these sea turtles and these other animals that they were eating are very large, and so I
mhm,
can't imagine. They're not like, I mean, when you look at a great white shark eating a seal or a sea lion, you're still looking at a difference in body size, and you know what I mean, because
mhm,
they're not going after like stellar sea lions, you know, that weigh
yeah,
like 15,100 pounds or
yeah,
whatever at juvenile status, you know
yeah,
what
yeah,
I mean? Never mind with their adults. So you're not looking at that, but you're looking at these like animals that weigh a couple hundred pounds or whatever it is. I don't know exactly. And then versus what you're looking at with the Meg supposedly ate, they would have be a disabler. They'd have to
yeah.
make sure that that thing would die before they could actually go back and kill it, because there's no way it would
Agreed.
be able to take it out. That, I mean, things like that just making more and more sense as we're talking about it. So I really have a very strong, I think it is a requiem. I'm going to stand by it. And I want
Yeah.
somebody to challenge that has a reputable
Yeah,
backing,
no,
you
we're
know, or
not. Yeah,
educational backing.
so
I'd love it.
the only thing that we are saying as a podcast 100% is that the meg is extinct. But there's so much other
100%.
things. Yeah, there's so many other things out there that we can speculate about, which is what makes this subject fun, because we really don't know. We
Yes.
have their teeth and we have their relatives to look at. So, which is cool,
Hmm.
because like I could also hear people saying, "Well, don't white sharks." I don't know if this is true. Well, because white sharks, I don't know. I'm not familiar with the white sharks in South Africa and stuff where they breach a lot, but I've seen videos. Won't they breach on seals and let them go to like bleed out or get a little? I've seen that before.
Yes. So
It's not
white sharks do
necessarily
do
like
that.
a
They
gulp and gone. They like disable it and yeah,
Yes. White sharks do use have that predatory behavior, but it's more. But so theirs is based off of really quick bursts of speed with their tail being as their main propeller, obviously. But it's really fast and very short
mhm,
bursts. And so with that saying, though, I think that they take apart the animal, but they also
yeah,
take it as a whole as well, but they're able
yeah.
to. I don't know, it's hard to I don't know, I think it's different with all
That's
of
what
it,
makes
but
this fun. That's what makes this
it's
fun.
like
We
because like
yeah,
I always say in my TikTok, in my lives, that the only blanket statement that you can say for every single species of sharks is that they have no bones. That's
that's
like
it.
all you can say, because everything else you say, it's like, well,
Yeah.
actually, that species of sharks or that family of
Mhm.
sharks or this
Mhm.
one. So, because I
Yeah.
mean, even when you say sharks lose teeth, there's actually species of sharks that have to lose a whole row of teeth at a time and not individual teeth to be able to replace them. So it's like
Gotcha.
you
Yeah.
can't. So it's just like, whatever. So they sharks have no bones is really the only concrete thing you
The
can
only
almost
blanket,
say.
yeah, the only blanket statement we have here is sharks do not have bones.
And that the meg is extinct. And then
And
I
the
think
meg
we
is
all just
extinct.
base it off of just, our
Yeah, yeah,
expertise.
exactly. It's hilarious. So I don't get to have this opportunity. I don't get to have this conversation much, but I enjoy
I
it
know.
because it's speculating. It's cool. I like the different theories, and there's a lot of them. If you Google Meg theories, you could be on the internet
Oh my,
for hours and hours just combing
it
through all
is
the
a
different theories.
spiral to the trenches.
Yeah, all the way down to the Mariana Trench. Yes, so
Oh, I kind of like that.
yeah,
Sorry. Go
write it
ahead.
down.
You know me. I'm just
Show notes
ADHD.
live on the show right now. Writing down show notes. We've already got some merch ideas. Emily's writing
I already
down.
got it going on, right?
We're good. We're good. Else was I going to say to her before we wrap up here? Because we're going to keep it to an hour and we're about
Sorry.
10 minutes away. So,
Yeah.
um, obviously the consensus for us is the Meg's extinct. That's no question. There is some gray area with everything else, which I find so cool. The
And
Meg being
fascinating.
more of a lanky, longer blue shark, maybe as in a requiem
Which,
shark, and not a mackerel shark, is a cool
mhm.
theory. Um, the ambush slash disabler thing is cool, which would go okay. So
Yeah.
it needs to be an agile style shark, more like a blue or whatever, or a requiem shark. So that's cool, and I really encourage anybody who's listening, if you are listening or watching, and I'm not talking about, oh, you watched a documentary on Netflix about the Meg, but if you're an expert in the
Right.
field,
Or
we
you
would
watch
love
the
to have
Meg
you on the show.
movies.
Yes, no,
Yeah.
I want to. If you're a paleontologist or anybody who works in marine fossils, that would be great to have you. And you know the Meg,
We
then come talk
welcome
to us.
opinions.
Yes,
Even if
absolutely,
it's the
100%.
same opinion that we have, we welcome it. We'd love to
Yes,
talk about stuff like this. So please reach out.
yes. I could talk about any shark for many hours, but yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm
Our
trying to think if I
friends.
have any last minute. I know. I'm trying to think if I have any last minute questions about the Meg that I was curious about. So I wanted to take the last like 9 minutes or so to talk about the other megatooth sharks. So
Okay.
I'm not so familiar. Everybody knows the Meg, but I don't think a lot of people
Everybody knows
realize
the Meg.
that there are three other species of giant ass
Okay.
prehistoric
At
sharks.
least at least three
Oh,
other species of megatooth sharks. And
okay.
the megatooth species of sharks started apparently around 66 million years ago. And they started with a shark called the Otodus. And these are all shortened versions of the names because I
Mm,
can't pronounce the whole name. But the
of
Otodus
course.
started 66 million years ago. I have a tooth of it. It had cusplets. So this
Oh,
tooth
yep.
was thought, I mean, this shark was thought to be about a 36-foot shark. It does have serrations all the way around the tooth. And this right here is where the burlap band, and that's that one set of really hard enamel that helps anchor the tooth is. And that's what qualifies these sharks as megatooth sharks, is that burlap band. And so these guys, this one started off with cusplets. These are two side teeth, and you do see them in living species of sharks as well, just not like this all the time. They are completely separate from the main tooth. And like I said, thought to have been a 36-foot shark. Then there's a gap in my knowledge of the megatooth sharks of about 33 million years, which is a huge gap. And once you jump that, and I know there's species in between, I just don't know specific species. And I don't, it's hard because their teeth all look so similar. But then you move on to the angie, which is this type of tooth. You still get the cusplets, but now they're a lot more closer, and there's not so much of a gap in
Hmm.
between the cusplet. Sorry, I'm totally opposite here than
You're
the
good.
main tooth.
Yep.
So this one was thought to have been a 39-foot shark. It still has that burlap band right here.
Hmm.
And their territories are slightly different. You move then to about 22 million years ago, and this is the chub. Now, the chub was a 30 or 44-foot shark. Still has the burlap band, but the cusplets now, these little side teeth, are now part of the main tooth. There's no separation in between them.
Yeah,
So
we're
when you
seeing
look
like a
at what we
fusing
now
over the
know,
years. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, now what we know is the front of the tooth
Yeah.
is you can see that the cusplets are part of the main
They
tooth. They're not
fused. Yeah.
actually
Hmm.
separate like the other ones.
Gotcha.
So then you move to the Meg. So the chub and the Meg lived at the same period of time, but the chub went extinct as the megalodon was still rising into the apex predator keystone species status.
Hmm.
So these are the ones that I definitely know more about than I do any other of the other species of megatooth sharks. Now it has to be more. I know there has to be more, but I don't know exactly what they are. I'm still learning about it, and but
And I
that's
feel
kind of
like
exciting because
we're still
go
learning in
ahead.
general as scientists, right? They're still discovering new
Yeah.
species and stuff. So it's not just that you don't know; it's that this community right now doesn't know that what else could be out
Yeah, and that's
there.
That's a really good point too, because that's the best thing about it is that accepting that we are, as like we've been talking about. These are all theories. We don't know. Things change. I mean, things that we thought about the megalodon 20 years ago, we now think differently about the megalodon. And even
Mm,
with living species, we don't know a lot about living species, so it's really hard to speculate on prehistoric species. But
mhm.
from what we know, like what we were talking about before, the discussions are what really kind of make things bloom in this type of aspect of stuff. So it's like there has to be more sharks than just these four mega two
You would
species
think
of
so,
sharks.
yeah,
There's got to be. So
yeah.
I mean, when
So
you're
do
looking at the span of time,
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So the interesting thing with those teeth, so the first one you said was 66 million years ago, correct? And that was the
yeah,
otodus. Okay.
yes.
And the cusplets are completely separated from the tooth, completely separate.
Yes, and
Which
when you
I'm
look at this side of it, you can see that there's like, I can almost fit my nail in between the
mhm,
cusplet and the main tooth. So
okay,
that's a definite distinguishing characteristic.
okay. And the first thing that came to my mind as somebody who doesn't know anything about these species is they're all separate species because it seems to me like an adaptation or evolutionary track where the cusplets slowly move in to form what we know more as a traditional meg. So is that all the that's what I'm curious about is that one species that evolved and changed
So
with
that's
the years, or is it still three
right.
separate species?
See, that's where I get confused too, is especially with this time span between the Otodus and the Angie, those 33 million years, that there
Mhm.
has to either be a different species, or is this all just an evolve? Like, where do you distinguish what's a separate species versus just an like a change or whatever? Or is that
Yeah.
change what notes the species? Because when you
Mhm.
look at different living species of sharks, especially the deep water sharks like the lantern sharks, you have you have at least 20 species of lantern sharks that look identical on the outside, but when you cut them open, they have different anatomy, they have different type of luminescence and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's what makes them different species, but you don't know that until you cut them open. So it's really, it's like, so do you apply that to these types of sharks? Like, do you
Yeah.
only really kind of like have a difference in species, so we really wouldn't know that it would be a different species or not because of the I don't know.
Because we don't know,
Yeah.
but it just seemed like to me like my heart started to beat because it was like, whoa, this is cool. Is that just are how are researchers and paleontologists know that that's four different species? Because to me, just when you were going through the teeth, it was like, holy shit, it looks like an evolutionary track. Like it looks like the Otodusk turned into or the Angie, and then the Angie turned into the Chub, and then we have the
Yeah.
Meg because the way the custlets kind of slowly
But the
move
thing is
through
too
as
is
the
that
years. Mhm.
the difference in sediment layers that you find them in, and then also where in the position and where I find them in. In the Otodus, you don't find them. The Otodus and the Angie and the Chub, you don't find in Florida. Find the Megs in Florida. So you know that those were pupping grounds, and we know that those are certain because of the different size teeth. When I find the Angie, I find the Chub all in South Carolina and
Mhm.
all up where you are. I
Yeah.
don't find any of these other species or the white shark one. I rarely find a white shark in Florida. All of those are up in the Carolinas. So
So
it's a difference in
why is that
territory and also
different?
difference in
Okay,
sediment layer.
different territory. Gotcha. That makes sense. So
Yeah,
your
and so
buddies in
that's why I
Venice
think it's
must
like a
be
difference
pretty
in
jealous.
timeline.
Are they jealous
Huh?
when you come to the Carolinas? The people, your buddies in Florida, and you get to find Angies and Chubs and
Yes,
stuff. Yeah,
yes,
but we have
they do.
Megs
They're
here
just like, oh, I
too.
want to do
So
that, and that's why.
yeah.
Well, that's why I said if I buy land, that they're like, really? So, really? And I'm like, ah, you want to dig, don't you?
Well,
You want to
I was
use
gonna
Ellen
say
quicker.
if you buy land for digging, I still think you should buy land in both places, but that costs money, and I'm not spending your money. So, but I guess wouldn't you want more
Thanks.
quality, more? Wouldn't you want more range of species? Shouldn't you buy land in the Carolinas?
Yes. Well, so
Because you can
what I
still
was
get the
thinking
Megs
was
here too.
buying land. Well, I was thinking of buying land, a little bit of land in South Carolina, a little bit of land in Florida. So we'll see what happens. Stay
So what's
tuned,
the
Shark Lady
difference
Enterprises.
with what's the difference with Florida Megs? What's the difference with Florida Megs and Carolina Megs?
Well, the sediment layer is different. You have a lot dry issue. You have more dry in the Carolinas, so you're going to get more clay. You're going to get more really kind of like mud and different. I don't know the actual terms for the sediment
Yeah,
layers, but there's a lot of
sure,
clay
yeah,
layer and there's a difference. You're going to get colors. You're also going to get a different in timeline because with I think with the Carolinas, I think that they were either I think it's below the Meg one. earth layer of where the Meg is, if that makes sense. So I think the Carolinas is lower than what Florida was. Does that? I don't know how to. I
I
don't know
see
how
what you're
to
saying. Yeah, yeah.
explain it.
No, I get,
You kind of know
I
what
get
I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So you can get a deeper layer exposed, and I think that that's where we were able to get more of the different species. Whereas in Florida, you're still hitting a certain layer that has only been exposed. Plus, you're getting a difference in a flow of erosion, not erosion. What am I trying to say? A natural flow of like fossils. So for like millions of years, Venice, Florida, is the natural river mouth to the ocean. So fossils just flowed naturally for millions of years, and so as they get buried they would fossilize, and now with
Yeah,
tropical storms that's why they uproot, and that's why we can
yeah,
dive for
I
them.
see what you're
So
saying.
it's like situations like that cause, yeah, anyways, the
So
exposure.
real quick, does the tide
Yeah,
affect that at all? Because like in South Carolina, obviously our tides are 6 feet plus, which is very large. Whereas Florida, their average tides are a foot and a half to 2 feet, so there's not as much water movement on the incoming and outgoing tide. Would that
yes,
move and deposit
right,
fossils like more aggressively here, or you don't think so? Because it's all buried, I would imagine.
yeah.
I guess it doesn't matter.
So yeah, there a lot of things are buried in it. Really, the best hunting is right after storms, because that's really what
Yeah.
unearths things with the waves and the wind, and that's
Mhm.
what's really going to cause all of that to be unearthed. I don't know if that's the correct term, unearthed or unburied or
I
whatever it
think it
is.
is actually
But
unearthed.
when
No,
you
I
do
think
have,
unearthed was right.
oh, oh, good, yay! But yeah, when you do get that, but they're naturally, when we're diving, they're literally just laying on the ocean floor, and you do get different degrees. So you get like this one, obviously this is a meg tooth, and it's completely covered in coral. So that right there has been sitting out on the ocean floor for a very long time to accumulate all that marine debris, is what I call it. And then you can
Mhm.
get teeth that are like this. That's like my this is a lesser white, and this one I did not clean at all. This one I found diving, and look, there's like no debris on it whatsoever. So
Mhm.
this one had just been unearthed like right before I had found it, because there's nothing that had grown on it.
Is
So
that a
you get
little
just
bite
different
damage on
degrees
it?
of it has, I think what I don't know what that is. Wouldn't that be kind of cool if it did have feeding damage, that little divot right
That's
there?
what I thought that was. Yeah.
That was caused from feeding. This is a
Yeah.
lesser white. So just a quick thing, the lesser white is what came before the white shark and the mako split off into two separate species. So there you go. Just wanted to
Very cool.
clarify for everybody. It's one of my
Very
favorite
cool.
teeth, and I'm going to find a big one. This is measuring at 2.5. I'll
Yeah.
find one that's 3.
Very
I
cool.
will. Mm-hmm.
Well, I
Shut
I
up.
f- I feel like we covered a lot in this hour. We went over a little
I
bit,
do
which I'm
too. This was
totally
fun.
fine with. Yeah. On the megalodon, we kind of veered off on a few different tangents, which is going to happen when we talk about sharks. So, but
But that's
anyway,
okay though, because that keeps it
yes,
spicy. No, I'm just kidding.
exactly. Not the word I would use, but yes, I
I
understand what
understand, but I don't. We stick
you're saying. So anyway, that's that we're gonna wrap it up.
Yes.
I feel like that was a good first episode, and I appreciate for anybody who's watching
Me
or listening
too.
on YouTube. Like I said before, if anybody has any questions, I'm gonna link the email below um, for uh, for you to send emails to if you have any questions that we can, and we'll go through the email each episode if there's a question, and we'll answer the question on the show. So, but anyway,
Definitely.
so we're gonna try to hold a schedule. We're both single parents, so scheduling is difficult, but um, we're gonna try to release an episode a week. I hope we can stick to an episode a week. If it's an hour a night, once
I
a
think
week, I
we
think we
can. I
can.
probably think we could almost even do a couple if we wanted to, especially if we get
Okay.
enough questions.
Yeah, I am always down for more content. So if we're still figuring it out, we'll let you guys know if it's going to be once a week, twice a week. We'll figure it out. If it's a really slow week for me,
Yeah.
I could do twice a week. We'll get it going. So I'm also
Yeah.
going to be starting up the Patreon page soon, which will be basically a way for people who want to support what we're doing, whether it be support the show or support our own individual research that we do separate or together when we're tagging together. Um,
Yep.
and so it'll be different levels of subscription. So like $5 a month, $10 a month, and each level of subscription will give you a bonus, whether it's a quick 30-minute bonus episode, merchandise, something. We'll figure it out how we're going to do that to support when people support the show. So I'll also link in the description below like my personal socials for my shark tagging work, Emily's personal socials for her tagging, diving, fossil, all the crazy shark shit she does over there. So I'll make sure everybody's got all that, so you can follow us individually or together. Yes.
That's
So
funny.
Anyway, we'll wrap it up. But thanks for everybody for watching, and yeah, we'll see you hopefully next week for
Thank
the
you
next
guys.
episode.
Appreciate it.
All right, bye.
Yeah, definitely. Bye.